Well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Chris Massengill with the St. Tammany Corporation. I want to welcome you to the third Corona conversation, whether this is your first session or if you've been participating in each session thus far. We're glad that you've taken time out of your busy schedule to be a part of these very important conversations. Participants on this call represent various facets of business and industries throughout St. Tammany. These series are facilitated through the incredible partnership, I might add, with the St. Tammany Chamber of Commerce and North Shore Community Foundation and your economic development organization, the St. Tammany Corporation. The purpose of these series is to engage business leaders in conversations around topics that have impacted our communities, the economy, our lives, share insights on near and short-term impacts, and discuss creative solutions and opportunities as we look to the future with the backdrop of COVID-19. Today's conversation is crucial to our families, to economic development, our businesses, our communities, and certainly our workplaces. Our economy and our future are tied to these two elements so closely. Our current and future workforce relies on our current education and training opportunities. A sustainable, vibrant economy requires a highly skilled and dedicated workforce. In today's knowledge economy, a commitment to lifelong learning and frequent skills training is critical for success. In 2018, St. Tammany Corporation institutionalized our workforce relationships with our key partners with economic development, workforce development, higher education, K through 12, and other educational partners to form what we refer to as the Workforce Roundtable. The Workforce Roundtable discusses workforce and training needs, explores opportunities for coordinated training delivery, seeks to understand continuing and future learning opportunities necessary for the creation and the retention of a competitive, skilled workforce. This coordinated partnership forms the foundation of our workforce development and talent retention efforts. A quick housekeeping note before we dive in today. The session is being recorded and will be shared for viewing later this week. Please submit your questions using the question and answer feature. And so with that, let's get started. It's my pleasure to moderate this panel of education and workforce partners and experts right here in our community. Today's conversation will include education and workforce's response to the pandemic, current and evolving plans for the fall semester, the new opportunities being discovered, and how business and industry can best support education, training, and the workforce in the immediate and short term, particularly prior to the end of 2020. We'll kick things off today with an essential partner, one that we actually just re-upped our CEA, our partnership, and we're so glad to be working together so closely with Parish Works. Melissa Kearse, Executive Director of the Workforce Board Development, which covers Plaquemines, St. Bernard, and St. Tammany. Melissa, thank you for being a part of this panel, and St. Tammany is fortunate to have you in our backyard with the kind of dedicated team that you have working with us for the purposes of economic development. So with that, Melissa, the floor is yours, and you've got our full attention.
Thank you so much, Chris. It's a pleasure to be here with you all today. I hope that everyone can hear me okay. The weather is starting to get a little ugly where I am sitting here in Covington, but I am so glad to be able to share with you all some of the impacts that we've seen within our economy and within the workforce here in St. Tammany Parish, but we also wanted an opportunity to share with you all some of the work that we've been doing and the partnerships we've been forming. And so I'm going to go ahead and start, if we can just change the slide real quickly. I wanted to kind of start with a current picture of where we are and where we've come from in terms of just the unemployment rates here in St. Tammany Parish. Overall, I think we've fared, believe it or not, fairly well, especially if you're looking in terms of Louisiana as a whole, and then certainly our region. Considering that we are part of the New Orleans region, certainly our impacts have not been quite as bad, even though, again, to us it does seem pretty challenging and difficult. It has been somewhat tempered, certainly from the diversity that we happen to have within our industries here in St. Tammany. So we certainly do look at that as a plus during these difficult times. You can see as most recent as June, we're looking at a 9% unemployment rate. If we go back to February, prior to this pandemic, we were at 3.5%. So and our high, if you see in April there, was at 15%. The industry sectors that were most affected is pretty similar across the state and region in terms of hospitality, food service, and retail. Certainly, we all know that the oil and gas industry had already been impacted prior to this pandemic, and so that does add to the situation that we have at hand. Certainly, there are experts across the country right now that are indicating that 20% of our small businesses across the United States may not recover from this pandemic. Certainly, we do think that will have a lot to do with how much longer this is going to hang around and cause us some issues. Long-term employment projections, that's a struggle right now for many. Even our top economists here in Louisiana and the nation are struggling to try and figure out exactly what things are going to look like long-term for us. So we've been trying to focus really on the here and now and try and meet individuals and businesses where they are to provide them the resources that they need now. We can go on to the next slide. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this, but I just thought it was important to give you all a little perspective from our point of view, some pros and cons on the unemployment insurance here in our local area. When we're talking about that $600 additional, which again is a hot topic of conversation, it has been since it was first put into play here, and also now that it has ended, it continues to be a hot topic. But when individuals were receiving that $600, in the scope of the total amount that they were receiving in unemployment, it was 70% of their income, which is pretty significant. Certainly, we also have to realize that a whole nother segment of the population was receiving those unemployment benefits because it opened up the ability for individuals not typically eligible for state unemployment to be able to receive those additional funds. And that's primarily our gig workers, our self-employed, and that community. But what it did do was it pumped $270 million into our economy on a weekly basis in Louisiana. And so with that $600 now coming to an end, certainly it's going to have major impacts on the individuals that were receiving it, but it's also going to have that trickle-down effect to our businesses in terms of groceries, people paying their rent, gas in their cars, even going out to eat or getting food out at restaurants. So right now, of course, if anybody's watching the news, you know what the status is. Currently, Congress is not making a lot of progress on this front. The president did initiate an executive order, but a lot of uncertainty remains as to what that is actually going to look like and how the states are going to implement that. Next slide, please. In addition to that, what we also have to realize, and what we know, is that there have been many individuals that have not returned to the workforce because of those additional benefits. So again, there's a lot of pros and cons here. You can look at this in many different ways, and certainly we do understand that. And I just wanted to show you all, in case you haven't done the math or thought about it, the difference is in what a potential hourly rate on those unemployment benefits would be. The maximum you can get here in Louisiana without the additional amount is $247 a week, which equates to $6.18 an hour. Compare that to the $600 that individuals were getting, and you were at $21.18 an hour. Again, which many individuals in our local area were not making prior to this pandemic. Certainly, we also know that there are other reasons that are keeping people from re-entering the workforce. Childcare has been a huge issue, especially in our community. I'm sure that many that are on the call today have had workers that have had issues with childcare and had problems in being able to go to work. The other issue is just the fear of the virus. There's many individuals that are very scared and afraid to go back to work and afraid that they're not going to be protected from this virus. But going back to the unemployment insurance for a minute, we also have the big issue looming of the depletion of the trust fund. And I think that Governor Edwards may have just mentioned that a day or two in an article that I read, that it is getting pretty close to being depleted, and that absolutely could trigger some issues with business tax increases and surcharges. Next slide, please. So what I wanted to share with you next real quickly, just so that you were aware, is that the Tri-Parish Works centers have been extremely busy during this time and during this pandemic. And in fact, our local centers have remained operational and accessible since day one. Now, we are not able to see individuals face-to-face right now, or at least it's on a very minimal basis and by appointment only, but we have been very effective in assisting individuals in our community. So when the pandemic first started, and probably for the first couple of months, we were all hands on deck in assisting people with filing their unemployment insurance claims. As we all know, many people couldn't get through to the unemployment office via telephone, and many individuals were trying to reach out to us for assistance. And I'm very glad to say that we were able to be there and assist many of them in filing for and just understanding some of the complexities that go into the unemployment insurance. Our centers also, though, very quickly adapted by use of multiple technology platforms so that we were able to continue serving individuals. And this has really caused us to do a lot of thinking outside of the box and how we deliver services. It's really giving us a new perspective and a lot of new and creative ideas in how we can more effectively serve people, even if they're in remote areas and maybe can't get to us in the future. So it has brought us closer and more in touch with our technology side. I will definitely say that. Next slide, please. So what are we doing to assist job seekers right now? Look, there is no doubt that we're now, when you see the unemployment numbers that we have and compare that to where we were back in February and previous, we definitely have a more crowded job market. And so one of the big pieces that we're trying to promote with individuals in our community is to help them get that competitive edge, because we know that there are going to be a lot more fish in the sea for the employers to consider. So we're proud to announce a promotion of a new initiative and campaign, Skill Up 2020. While we've always been able to provide financial support for individuals for training, we're really making that increased effort to push out in a lot of venues, social media, the public notices, information that individuals may find helpful for them to consider, maybe that they didn't before. They're unemployed right now, unable to go to work. We really truly want to help them increase their competitiveness and employability. And so we're really pushing that piece hard. We've enhanced our partnerships with our community and technical colleges, ensuring that their students are aware of the assistance we can provide. And we're certainly continuing to connect individuals to employers that are hiring. I just really wanted to show you some of the impacts that we can have in our community and have had. Our prior year, we spent nearly $1 million on training investments to help our residents become more successful and become employed. And that has yielded some unbelievable results in the 10 million plus of annual wages back into our community. But we also, if you go on to the next slide, can see what we're doing to assist our businesses. We're continuing to do outreach, and in fact, in the last few weeks, the good news is we're getting a lot more calls from employers who are looking to hire individuals, and that is great news. We're providing referrals of candidates, but we're also heavily promoting our employer-based training opportunities because they are so successful. You can see that last year, and again, our year that I'm speaking of is a program year, so it just ended in June. We had $400,000 investments directly to businesses for training on the job. And our success rate has been so fantastic with those direct connections with our employers. But that is even taking into consideration the 3.5+ months that we've been having to deal with COVID. So it really does even make those impacts even more incredible. So what's next? As we look down the road to a post-pandemic economy, we do see some bright spots. We truly do. Our healthcare sector has remained strong through all of this. And in fact, our IT sector continues to show growth, and we just see some tremendous opportunities there. Certainly transportation and logistics is going to be competitive. We're in a really good spot here in St. Tammany Parish with our interstates and railroads and not too far from the port. So manufacturing, you know, we do think it's going to continue with its normal ebbs and flows. Automation certainly may have some impact in the future, but we don't think it's going to be immediately significant. Unfortunately, hospitality is going to be the slow one to return. We know that for sure, but we also see some positive changes in wages. We see some increase in wages due to competition. We don't think it's going to be really easy to go back from that. Certainly a lot of companies have figured out the telework and that maybe that is working for them. And the technology enhancements, as we can see, we're all now using Zoom and other methods of communication. We do think it's going to help our businesses to become more nimble and adaptive through the use of this technology and for in the future. So finally, I just wanted to share with you all that Tri-Parish Works is truly committed to supporting our communities, both our businesses and our job seekers and those that want to further their education. We do truly think we see some light at the end of this tunnel, and we do think our future is bright. Southeast Louisiana, we are known for our resiliency. Let's face it, we have been through quite a few other disasters in our time that maybe many other areas in our country have not been. And we've shown that we can get through these and be even stronger. And that's our hope for the future. So the big question for us is not so much if we recover, but when we recover. I want to thank you all for your time. And I think the last slide that I have will just show some contact information. We would be very happy for employers who are interested and need help in finding workers or getting some training for their workforce. We'd love to hear from you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Melissa, very much. And appreciate all of your work. And yes, the sensitivity to what's happening in Congress right now is crucial to our long-term sustainability. And we're praying for our congressional delegation and urging them to quick success on that because it's critically important. Melissa, thank you again. Well, up next is Dr. William Wainwright, Chancellor, North Shore Technical Community College. And I might also add a personal point of privilege here, a commissioner of economic development for St. Tammany and as part of our board and a key economic development partner. Having a technical and community college as an asset for economic development is truly a positive for our community and our ability to do the work of economic development. So Dr. Wainwright, thank you for you and your team's partnership and the work that you do on behalf of workforce development and training and economic development. The floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chris. We are so fortunate to have your leadership. I want to thank the St. Tammany Corporation, St. Tammany Chamber, and North Shore Community Foundation for the Corona Conversation series. It's never been more important that we bring together our business community leadership throughout the parish to really talk about the hard issues, that talk about solutions, and talk about the bright future that will come after the pandemic. Melissa talked about resiliency. We've been in these situations before. This one is different, but I have every confidence in the end we'll be stronger. Next slide, please. To begin, I want to share with you a little bit about our college student that we serve. This is the population of Louisiana's community and technical colleges students in total. And so on the left, you see traditional students. The average age is 27. We have the demographic breakdowns. We serve about 81,000 statewide traditional. That's your traditional college student, as you would think, the ones who graduate, you know, in the spring and enter college in the fall. We also serve a significant workforce population that would be known as non-credit. Many of these individuals are skilling up. They're coming to us for short-term training. And then on the right side, you see our average student age for our adult basic ed students, formerly known as GED, now HiSET. So we serve a diverse student population. At the end of the day, our average student works full-time, has dependents. Education is one of many priorities, and they want a better life. It's important I share that with you because when you see our college responding by training and educating beyond Thanksgiving, when universities are getting their teaching and learning in before the Thanksgiving holidays, it's because we don't have dorm rooms. Our student population, they go home every night. And that only requires us to increase our protocols each day as we train during the pandemic. Next slide. So to prepare for the pandemic, we learned a lot from the Great Flood of 2016. In 2016, I have a campus in Greensburg where a bridge washed out. The Great Flood of 2016 happened the Friday before the first day of the fall semester. We lost 600 students. Our students in St. Helena Parish had to go through Mississippi to get back to their campus. We learned a lot. We learned that Maslow's hierarchy trumps anything. Students and families had to be safe. They had to be connected before they could think of teaching and learning. Our intense pockets of poverty were further exposed. The mental health crisis was exacerbated. We couldn't flip to online learning because we had a broadband issue. Next slide, please. And so that really prepared us to look at leadership. And so in 2016, we learned a lot of lessons. We learned that if we're going to be responsive, that leaders must be authentic, they must be vulnerable, they must have a command of technology. If we're going to be asking our people to respond to online learning, we got to know it as leaders. We had to address fear, avoid non-answers. And for me, I was able during the pandemic to lean in and meet with a colleague of mine who runs the Borough of Manhattan Community College in Lower Manhattan. We were having hotspot to hotspot conversations just so that we could adequately plan for the here and now and the future. Next slide. Thank you. And so at the start of the pandemic, the request from the governor and from the state and our local communities was to graduate as many healthcare professionals as quickly as possible. So for us, we graduated 250 nurses, patient care technicians, nurse assistants, medical assistants, EMTs, and pharmacy techs. We graduated them ahead of time or on time for the spring semester so that they could immediately engage. At the same time, we had customized training partnerships with our partners at Ochsner and North Oaks underway, further supporting that effort. And we were also continuing customized training that we were flipping to an online environment, and all of our nursing students to graduate on time had their own avatars. So we made significant investments in simulation. Next slide. We also, it was important we confer degrees for our graduates, and drive-by grab-and-goes were not appropriate because many of our students are first-generation college graduates. So in 5 days and 50 hours, we held 247 individual conferrings with just the student and their immediate family members. That was critical because after every conferring, they went on Facebook and social media to talk about the fact that our college was still alive and that we were providing our mission. And that actually led to some significant interest in enrolling in the summer and the fall. So we were very pleased to be able to not only honor our graduates, but to continue to establish a continuum of learning for our citizenry. Next slide. We also established unique learning platforms at the college early on in the pandemic. We established a teaching and learning center for all of our faculty who were flipping to online. We had a lot of online before, but online in welding, machining, electrical, HVAC is not the same as online in English and math. So we needed to ensure adequate support. So we held Tech Tuesdays every Tuesday where we worked with our faculty and staff to help them troubleshoot issues. We had coffee breaks every Thursday, to be quite honest, for us to check in and look at our people and make sure that they were okay. But we would also talk about issues. It may be social justice. It may be concerns, fear, and anxiety associated with the pandemic. And then we established Gator Good News, where every week during the pandemic, we highlighted faculty and staff going above and beyond. That was essential for us to sustain morale. Next slide. These are issues that existed before the pandemic, and we have challenges in serving many of our disadvantaged adult learners in crisis. Again, I talked about a lot of this already. I'll hone in on food insecurity. Sterling Property stepped up and contributed to our food bank. That was critical. We have a food bank on all 5 campuses. We have students who are food insecure. And so for us to have that type of support from the industry was extremely helpful as we were trying to respond to the holistic needs of all learners. Next slide. I want to talk about social justice because if we are achieving our mission in workforce training, then we're going to address social justice. We cannot respond to the pandemic and ignore social justice. And so social justice, as defined by Oxford, justice in terms of the distribution of wealth, opportunities, and privilege within a society. Next slide. That begins with our college understanding the difference between equality and equity. If equality means giving everyone the same resources, equity means giving each individual access to the resources they need. Next slide. And for our college family, this is what speaks volumes to us. We understand equality, but if we're going to truly embrace equity, we need to look within all divisions of the college on how we are providing the holistic student support as well as the support to our faculty and staff. Next slide. So what we did was we took our strategic plan, goal 1, objective 1, which happened to be our new plan. Our new goal was, prior to social justice, for us to increase student enrollment, completion, and retention in high demand, high wage programs of study for students who are minorities. That was our goal already. And so what we've done is we established a social justice task force where we are giving our minority students opportunities for growth. We're making data-driven decisions on closing the achievement gap for our minority students. That led us to an unconscious bias decision. If you're wondering why North Oaks and St. Tammany Parish Hospital logos are on the slide, it's because I realized we had a problem in one of our high wage, high demand programs of study, which is nursing. I had too much of a variance in success rates of minorities in that particular program, which is a game-changing occupation for many of our students throughout this region. And so I met with CEO Joan Kaufman of St. Tammany Parish Hospital and CEO Michelle Sutton of North Oaks to talk about what we were seeing as perceptions of access issues for our students of color wanting to come into that program of study. They shared with me that based on their own experiences, North Oaks had built out a curriculum for unconscious bias because they were addressing the same within their medical profession. So now North Oaks, as early, we had our first session today, is providing that curriculum to our health sciences faculty, staff, and students. And St. Tammany Parish Hospital is working with North Oaks to replicate. That's an example of coming together in pandemic and ensuring that all things are important and that we're taking all into consideration if we're going to truly graduate and prepare for the workforce beyond the pandemic. Next slide. We had our call to action. We need to address the fact that with the economic future of our country resting squarely in the hands of a rapidly growing minority population, the bottom line is our graduates, when they graduate, they must have an appreciation of multiculturalism if they're going to be successful in the workforce. Next slide. We also need to address youth disconnection. And so it's estimated that 6 million youth will be disconnected as a direct result of the pandemic. So as we're working on responding, when we're talking about youth apprenticeship, mentoring programs, partnering with industry for our youth, this is the population we're serving. Next slide. We are a regional college. I know we are speaking about responding in St. Tammany Parish, but the strength of Washington, Tangi, St. Helena, and Livingston, the strength of those parishes is extremely important to St. Tammany Parish. And so these are some examples of our campuses outside of the college. And if you go to the next slide, our responses in those communities must be consistent. What you're looking at is our online check-in form. Students, faculty, and staff must complete this before stepping foot on campus and visitors. Once they do, they get a green check. If they don't have any symptoms, that check automatically goes to our security and maintenance staff, and we evaluate and align that guest when they arrive on campus with a quick and simple temperature check, and then they're able to come on campus. That's our phase 2 restrictions. At this time, we've had no issues with this process. Next. Our students, I'm gonna go through these slides quickly. Our students are seeing a lot of this. These are our infographics, just constantly communicating to students, faculty, staff, and visitors on campus. Class size, what does that look like? Hand washing, cleaning, what does that look like on the campuses? Next slide. How you check in, temperature checks, mask requirements. All of this is hitting Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Next slide. What do online classes look like? Who will be in person? Who will be face-to-face? How will that work? Just to give you an example, if I have a welding class of 25, you may see 5 a day only on campus, and the rest of their instruction is online later in the week. Or if I have an electrical class of 20, you'll see 10 in the electrical class, while simultaneously I've got 10 on compressed video and learning from the same lecture. Keeping as many students off campus as possible will allow us to have as many technical studies students on campus so we can ensure that we serve all of our programs of study. Again, these are more infographics that students, faculty, staff, and visitors are seeing as they enter the campus and social media. Next slide. This is the most important part. These are our decision trees. So the question, well, Will, what's going to happen when, not if, but when someone has a COVID diagnosis and they've attended your campus? So we have decision trees for students, decision trees for faculty and staff. It's real simple. Do you have symptoms? If yes, then this. If no, then that. And so what's the most important part of these decision trees is the very bottom, which pretty much triggers us to determine if we need to quarantine a class, a section, an area. If we are implementing these decision trees in partnership with Region 9 LDH, then it'll prevent us from college-wide shutdowns. Next slide. In partnership with Parish Works, we're going to be training and hiring cleaning technicians and fever checkers just to support the effort. Next slide. We partnered with Ochsner. We've established, thanks to Ochsner, a virtual clinic at our college. All students enrolled have access. Those with no coverage can access our Ochsner telehealth network for $10 from home and also provide that service to their dependents. That will be essential as we work to secure the health and wellness of our student body and our faculty and staff. Next slide. And then our partnerships are critical. So this is the graduating class of a compressed medical assisting program that graduated in January of this year. They went to work for Ochsner North Shore Network immediately when the pandemic started. And then North Oaks liked it, we replicated it. They started a class in the middle of pandemic. That class graduated 2 Fridays ago, and we're now working in partnership with Parish Works and St. Tammany Parish Hospital to replicate the same. Next. Our partnerships with Amazon through our cloud associate degree, Ochsner, DXC Technology, Latrim and Elmer's Chocolate through Mechatronics and Advanced Manufacturer, going strong. And if you go to the next slide, I'll give you an example of that. Last Friday, on the left, we do signing ceremonies just like athletes have them. We have them for our students. On the left is the signing ceremony for our new cohort of Advanced Manufacturing Mechatronics students in partnership with North Shore Delgado, Nunez, and G&O Inc. We had that ceremony last Friday. Just started our new cohort. So we're very proud that work must continue. Next. This is the graduating class of an Ochsner North Shore Parish Works customized medical assistant to nursing bridge program. This class is currently serving in the pandemic and supporting our parish. Next. Our college was recently ranked one of the fastest growing in the nation. While we're proud of that, the final slide is going to explain how we're going to sustain that momentum. Next slide. This is our mechatronics lab on the left. It just arrived Monday. We received a 1.9 Delta Regional Authority grant to bring to scale our mechatronic program. So imagine this mechatronics lab right now with our STEM lab, bringing education and opportunity to all of our communities. If you want to look at social distancing and you want to look at controlled space and environment, that's a prime example of modalities that you're not hearing much about. On the right side is our Agile Workspace, which DXC Technology is funding for us for our cloud computing program. And I think I have my final slide. Next. This shows you our social media. You cannot over-communicate in a pandemic. So this is just some examples of Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram and how all of our messaging is really trending. And we're going to continue to do that throughout the pandemic. Next slide. And this is my final slide. What will we look like beyond the pandemic? You're going to see expanded programs and course offerings. We've built a depth in online that we did not have prior. We're going to sustain health and wellness for our faculty and staff and our student body. We've learned a lot about health and wellness and ensuring vulnerability of people, that we can do our part to prevent that. Global reach now in education with online, we can reach far beyond the North Shore in serving the workforce mission of our college. Enhanced technologies, broadened depth of faculty, and expanded business and industry partnerships. I know I've gone through a lot. These slides will be available for everyone and for many of the partners we work with and those who we may not. We are open. We are live. Reach out to us. We welcome any new ideas, new thoughts, and how we can further or better our efforts and expand our opportunities. So thank you, Chris. Thank you to all of our partners for this opportunity.
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate your ongoing partnership and your leadership to help us stay competitive and making sure that we have the workforce not only for today, but for the future, and maintaining the ability for St. Tammany Parish to be the destination of choice. And speaking about being the destination of choice, a big part of that lies with K through 12. It's the reason many people move here. It's an attraction tool for us in economic development because of the quality of our K through 12 program, both private and public. St. Tammany Public Schools are consistently viewed as some of the best in the state And we're grateful to the tremendous team of educators and staff at the St. Tammany Parish Public Schools for their ongoing commitment and relationship with business and economic development. And with that, we'd like to introduce Interim Superintendent Pete Jabbia, who needs no introduction to St. Tammany Parish. He's been a long-term educator and leader here in St. Tammany Parish on these issues. Pete, thank you for making time. We know that the schedules are tough, and we appreciate you being a part of this, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you, Chris. I appreciate being invited to this today. Thank you so much for having me. Y'all please bear with me. I've been the interim since July 1. As Chris said, I'm not new to this parish. This is my 53rd year, and I've served in everything from a teacher, assistant principal, to supervisor. I started the Human Resources Department in our school system back in 1983. I was the first personnel director. And then I've just progressed through the system with being associate superintendent and now interim superintendent. So I'm happy to be able to help the school system move forward until a new superintendent can be selected by our school board. So today I just have some information for you, and at the end, of course, if you have any questions, we'll let you know. So just a brief overview. We now have 56 schools because one of those is our new virtual school. So we had 55 schools last year with 39,000 students and almost 6,000 employees. Next slide. So what did we do with COVID-19 and how do we respond? We found out, like March the 13th, that we were going to be closed down and what we're going to do. So our central office still kept our essential personnel. We never missed a payroll, so all of our employees got paid. And then all of our teachers continued to work from home with remote learning and communicating with parents. We learned that even though we were apart, that we were together because we were always connected. Probably one of the biggest things that we did during the time that we were closed was our grab-and-go meals. We were able to serve over 1 million meals during the time we were closed so that all of our students, we made sure that they had the proper nutrition and that was available to them each and every day. We also had an MHP hotline, mental health provider hotline, and you probably saw a lot on social media regarding our graduations. We wanted to give our students a face-to-face graduation, and in the end, we were able to do that. But we had a lot of drive-by graduations and a lot of celebrations, and I think our seniors and all of our parents really appreciated what we did. Next slide. So our commitment is always the same. We're talking about our learning experience, our social emotional support, balanced nutrition. But really the biggest thing for me and for us is that we provide for the safety and well-being of our students and our employees. That's our biggest thing that we're trying to do in our reopening process. We know that once we get into the classroom, we have excellent employees, that teaching and learning is going to take place. But the main thing is to keep everybody safe and prevent the spread of COVID-19 in our community. And we're doing a lot of things to do that, and I'll go through that. Next slide. So throughout the summer, we evaluated innovative processes. We prepared teachers through virtual professional development. And here's a biggie. We ordered Chromebooks for students and teachers. Last year, our community, I'm very proud to say that they approved our bond issue. And part of that bond issue was monies for Chromebooks for all of our students and all of our teachers. And in March, when we closed, our IT director got on the ball and found the price of Chromebooks from a vendor, which was better than state contract. And we actually ordered 35,000 Chromebooks in March, hoping they would all be here by now. But you know where those Chromebooks are made, so it's taken a while to get them here. But we're told by the end of August, we should have all of our Chromebooks so that all of our students will have access through anything if we need to do something virtually for all of our students. And we've communicated with our stakeholders and we plan for various scenarios. We've ordered all of our supplies. That's all been delivered to our schools. So we are ready for the opening. That includes face masks for our students and employees. That includes the hand sanitizers, because the first thing they do when they walk through the door is they're going to do a hand sanitizing. They're going to go to the classroom. Students would be temped in the classroom. There was a lot of talk about temping students at the bus stop, but with Louisiana weather, how hot it is, knowing those temperatures may not be accurate, we thought the best thing to do. And the other thing is, if a student would happen to tip with a high degree at the bus stop and the parents already gone home, what do we do with those kids? Because we got a busload of kids now that we've got to take to the school. So we talked with the State Department. The State Department has agreed and thought that the best place to temp would be during first period of homeroom. So that's what we'll be doing each and every day. Next slide. So we did a survey, and you can see that we got excellent results from this survey. We talked about transportation. We talked about parents and caregivers, about employees and returning to work and high-risk employees, whether about working remotely, what kind of support you would need. So based on all of this, we were able to make some decisions on how to go forward in opening up our schools. Next slide. So part of all of this was a new student online registration. So because of COVID-19, we were able to do an online registration for any new student to our school system. And our current students who want to enroll in our virtual school, they could enter all of the information and upload the registration documents all online. And in addition to that, we did have 2 days, July the 28th and 29th, where we did have face-to-face registration for those parents who did not have access to the technology to be able to go online, but needed to enroll their kids in our schools. Next slide. So we did, what we're going to do is a safe start, and I'll back up just a little bit. We were ready to open on August 11th, and at our board meeting last month, our board decided to go in a different direction based on the state that the state of Louisiana is in regarding COVID-19, hoping that things would be better by the day after Labor Day, and also based on the fact that hopefully we'll have our Chromebooks in by that time. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a safe start for our students, and a fourth of our students are going to come each day, the 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th, and they're coming by the last name of their alphabet-wise, so that they will come, and we're going to be able to do a number of things with these small groups. Number one is we'll be able to go through an orientation with these students, because they're going to be doing everything different. What do they do when they get off the bus? Where do they go? Hand washing, face masks. How do you navigate around the school? What happens when I need to go to the restroom? What about lunchtime? What happens after school? What happens at recess? So we're going to be able to do all of this with these small groups of students and have them oriented so that when we start with everyone, they'll be prepared to go. We're also going to, this will give us a good idea about our transportation, because transportation, school food service are two big challenges that we have. So we'll get an idea of how many kids are going to be riding the buses, and then we'll be able to make a determination whether we're going to need to add new buses or whether we're going to add new routes. So we'll be able to do all of that on that weekend before everybody comes that next day. The other thing that's very, very important that we're going to do during these 4 days is we're going to start some diagnostic testing to see if our kids missed anything while we were closed, starting in March. We have 30 days to get that done, but we can get that started with these small groups where we can find out where we are and then get with them to bring them up to speed of where they need to be. Our teachers are going to be coming August the 20th through September the 3rd, and then September 4th will be Teachers Day. We have every day outlined with professional development of what we need to be doing and being prepared when those students come on September 8th. Next slide. So here's what we decided to do, and this is what we're going to open up with on that day after we finish that week of Safe Start. If we're in phase 1, there's nothing we can do. The numbers are so low that groups of 10 is the max. We cannot do face-to-face, so everything would be distance learning. Right now we're in phase 2, and hopefully we'll be in phase 2 or possibly phase 3. If we're in phase 2, we're looking at pre-K through 5 doing traditional brick and mortar schools, coming 5 days a week. And in grades 6 through 12, we would do a hybrid model. That hybrid model would be cohort A and cohort B, with cohort A coming on Monday and Wednesday, and cohort B coming on Tuesday and Thursday. And then those two cohorts would alternate every other Friday of coming to school actually in person. The other days while they're off would be distance learning. And then if we're in phase 3, we're going to go back to our traditional brick and mortar face-to-face K through 12 school. Next slide. And of course, we did add this year a virtual school. Now, we had already started a virtual school, formulating the process for that. We've been losing some students to other virtual schools. We've been losing students to homeschooling. And so we wanted to try to get those students back into our school system. So we had already begun this process, but now we've kind of gone full-fledged with this. So we do now have our own teachers. This is completely separate than distance learning. This is actually all day, full-time online school with our own teachers providing instruction. Curriculum will be aligned to the state standards. There'll be a platform, an educational platform called Edgenuity that our students will work by and our teachers will work by. Right now, as of today, I met with our assistant superintendent this morning, and we have approximately 2,500 students that have enrolled in our virtual school. They will have to drop from their normal school, and they will not be able to participate in any of those extracurricular activities at their home school, but we are looking at activities that we could do, such as student council, honor society, etc., that they could be involved in through the virtual school. We're also, because there's a financial component to this software that we're using, we're asking parents to commit for a minimum of 1 semester. If they want to continue after 1 semester, it's okay. If not, if they want to go back to their home school, they'll certainly be able to do that. Next slide. So these are all the safety protocols that we're doing. What we've been doing right now with all of our buildings, we opened back up May 26th, so the employees that were working at that time, we do the assessment, we do the temp, we do a wristband that everybody has to wear. It's a different color for every day. That is going to continue for our employees. Again, for our students, we're going to have them temped in the classroom. Anybody that's not, that exceeds the 100.4 will immediately go to a sick room, and then their parents will be called for them to come pick them up. We are very, very fortunate. We've partnered with Ochsner Health System. They've helped us with our employee return to work, and now they're helping us with our student returning. And so we're going to have a nurse that our principals are going to be able to call. They're going to be able to give the scenario of what's exactly happened at their school, whether it be with a student or an employee. And that nurse is going to guide us through and tell us exactly what we need to do. We're not medical professionals. I would prefer a medical professional be able to tell us, and Ochsner is going to be able to help us with that. And then they will go ahead and contact the public health department, because we do have to do that as part of our guidelines, so they can do their contact tracing and those type of things. But we're very, very pleased that Ochsner is on board with us and to help us with this. And you can see the other things that we're doing, and it's a lot. It's going to look completely different. Our school bus drivers are going to have to disinfect and clean their bus before they pick up a load, and then after they drop those kids off, they're going to have to do that disinfecting and cleaning again before they pick up another one. We're going to have social distance in the classrooms. Right now, the guidelines are 3rd grade through 12th, you have to wear a face mask. So those kids are going to have to wear a face mask. We're going to do social distancing to the extent possible. Our limits on the class size are 24 plus 1 adult for a total of 25. So we think we can do that with our K through 5, pre-K through 5. It may not be the full 6 feet, so if it's not, they'll have to keep those masks on. But we're going to provide for times during the day where those teachers can take those kids out on the playground, in the auditorium, in the gym, whatever may be available, to let them take their face masks off, stretch out a little bit, and then come back to the classroom. But all of those things are going to look completely different, and it's going to be a challenge. But somebody said a while ago, I think it was Cedarwood, said that their school day went great. The kids were so compliant. And that's what I'm hearing from other superintendents whose school systems have already opened. And if you recall back after Katrina, when we got back in school, that was probably the year that we had the least interruptions as far as discipline is concerned. So I'm really looking for our students to be in compliance. I think they're ready to get back to school. Our employees are ready to get back to school. We're going to be prepared for the opening day, and we're going to provide a good learning environment. But most of all, we're going to make sure that our kids and our employees are safe and that we keep them healthy. And my next slide. And I think that's it. So that's the presentation that I have today. I know that you may have questions, but again, thank you for inviting me to participate, and thank you for support of our public school system. It is truly appreciated.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent, and we certainly appreciate you and all of your team, and we appreciate what you guys are doing for our community. You know, St. Tammany is also home to strong private schools, which add to the strength of our education and workforce ecosystem. And with that, to round out our panel today, Kathy LeBlanc, founder and president of Cedarwood Schools. So Kathy, the floor is all yours.
Thank you so much, Chris. I appreciate the opportunity to share some of our successes with you and the rest of the folks today. We have, as you heard, our first day of school was today. We are a small school, so we have an advantage in being able to start with all of our students in class. Our largest class at Cedarwood is 16. So social distancing has been an easier task than, of course, Mr. Jabby is able to do. And we've been following all the same protocols that he described as well. I hope that today the message that I can give is a message of encouragement and of hope, because these protocol that we've been practicing, we practiced all summer in our summer camp programs, really do work. These are some of the healthiest children I've seen, I think, in a long time at school. So next slide, please. So today was our very first day of school. We are doing curbside. Parents are not able to come in the building right now in phase 2, but it went well. The kids were so excited to hop out of the car and meet their teachers. The parents were happy to drop their kids off and drive away. We had a really great first day. Next slide. And so, like many of the other presenters you heard, we are partnering with Ochsner with our Safe to Return program. They've been super with us. Early in the summer, Dr. Tim Riddell and Michael Bouche with Ochsner Hospital came and consulted with our staff to assure that we had all the safety protocols in place, daily temperature checks and health screenings, and the employee wellness customized portal we had installed. I'll tell you a little bit more about that in the next couple slides. So our safety protocol in phase 2, the children are greeted curbside, like I said. Our groups are small and static. The group sizes are monitored to assure that social distancing and that those groups are not mixed. We have regular hand washing throughout the day. We've installed hand sanitizers throughout our buildings. Third grade, like Mr. Jabia said, third grade and up, those children are having to wear masks. Actually, some of our second grade students showed up today in masks because their parents asked them to do that, and that's fine with us as well. It's not required. And so touchless paper towel dispensers, anything that we can do to prevent that contact. So we've been working hard all summer putting all of those protocols in place. Next slide. So there have been many resources available to us for a safe reopen. The Strong Start 2020, which is put out by the Louisiana Department of Education, is a very detailed plan, and we have been following that to the T. It's been extremely great guidance. Those resources are available on the Louisiana Department of Education website and are available to parents as well. There's some great parent resources there too. So I encourage, if you're a parent, to go there and check that out. And then, of course, Ochsner has been amazing in the guidance that they've been giving us and the access that they've been giving us as well. Next slide. So one of the statements in the Louisiana plan, which was very encouraging, I think, certainly to me as an administrator, but to many of the other schools in our area, is that in phases 1, 2, and 3, school facilities can open to students for in-person instruction with certain restrictions in place. And so as long as we're following those protocols that are designed to keep our kids safe, then we can be in the classroom, person to person, which I think is the ideal way to teach children. Next slide, please. And then, so this is another part of the Louisiana plan. The group size, spacing, and physical standards are all mapped out for us, as also the symptom monitoring and how to maintain the environmental cleaning and personal hygiene, which tends to be the biggest time-consuming part of it. Every 2 hours, we're disinfecting classrooms. Children are washing hands upon entering and then exiting classrooms, before lunch, after lunch, before recess, after recess. We also have natural disinfecting solution company, NDS, comes in and fogs our classrooms every night so that we can make sure that manipulatives and things that children are touching throughout the day are also sanitized. Next slide. Next slide. Oh, there you go. So the other things that we are doing is limiting group spaces indoors. If we have assembly group of children in the gymnasium, we have them separated by partitions. We have contracted with an outside food vendor to cater in lunches so that we do not have that going on within our building, except that we do in our preschool still offer lunches prepared specifically for those children. We do serve infants through 7th grade. So our families that are working, two-parent families that are working, are excited to have childcare back. Those are some of our happiest people today as we started school. Next slide, please. So teachers wear masks at all times during the school day, as long as it's mandated. This is a difficult thing for all of us, I think, particularly for teachers, because they're teaching reading and phonics, and children are looking at their faces for expression. And so this has been a bit challenging. We are also providing our teachers with shields, face shields. They do not replace the mask, but the teachers are enjoying using those if they are far away from the children reading a book. So we're taking every precaution. As you can see, these teachers are wearing their masks as they're working closely with children. These are small children and, of course, need lots of contact. Next slide. So these are the shields that I was telling you about, as well as the hand sanitizers. These are automatic hand sanitizers, so there's no touching at all involved, which just makes it very sanitary. Next slide, please. So just a few looks around our campus. We have created an outdoor classroom space where classes can go outside. Of course, it's pretty hot and the rain this afternoon chased them away, but they can go outside and do activities. Even our art teacher is taking the children this week to enjoy the fresh air, and they can relax a little bit outside, You can see one of our classrooms, the way that the desks are placed. They are separate and apart from each other. They all have their own materials, and so there's no mixing of that. Next slide, please. This teacher has separated all of her materials, particularly these are little math cubes that they use for counting. Each child has their own, and so it's all bagged up, and there's no sharing of that. We've also had sneeze guards. There's a company in New Orleans, NOLA Sneeze Guards, that is making these customized plexiglass barriers, if you will, to separate the children. So we can put 4 children at a table. They're not sharing materials. They have their own materials, and they are protected from each other, but still can see each other and talk and collaborate and work together as a team. Next slide. So the teacher's health is certainly a priority, and we understand that some employees are anxious about coming back to work. We've had a 3-day orientation where we've spoken a lot about that with our teachers. Some of them are, certainly nervous about coming back. They've had a great day under their belts today, so I'm happy. I think that they're going to start feeling better about being in the classroom. But we are using Ochsner Safe Return Employer Solutions program, which does include a kiosk. Next slide, please. So the kiosk it has been installed in a private office where teachers can approach the kiosk if they are having some health concern. Even if they just want to take their blood pressure, if they're feeling anxious, maybe they have, an itchy eye, or they came with maybe a scratchy throat, they just really would feel better in talking with a physician. The kiosk it's a $10 charge. So certainly they don't have to make an appointment. They don't have to leave the campus. They can go right there and receive some wellness checks and hopefully help them feel better, saving time at the same time. And we're excited about that because our employees are feeling very safe. Next slide. So moving forward, our school will move forward with in-person instruction every day. Our students in grades 2 through 6 have one-to-one Chromebooks, and they did on March 13th when we had to shut everything down. They were able to take their Chromebooks home with them and do distance learning on their Chromebooks. And if we had to go to distance learning again, of course, they would take their Chromebooks home with them, but they have already been trained in all of the Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Classroom procedures. So we feel really good about preparing them for more distance learning should we have to do that. We hope we don't. Next slide. So creating that sense of community within a school where parents are not allowed to come in is a very big challenge. So we have been using a lot of social media. We are going to be transitioning to an app called Blooms, where teachers can send pictures and videos of what's going on in their classroom. And we've been on, of course, the usual Facebook, Instagram, and we have established our own YouTube channel where teachers are uploading videos for communicating with parents. And I just think it's so extremely important to continue those relationships with our families, to have them be our partners and also be supportive of this really challenging time. Next slide. So we tell ourselves this all the time here at school. We can continue to accomplish great things in our schools with the support of the community. The community has been very receptive to everything that we've offered them, and we rely on our community for lots of support in the area of the PPE. Just networking and trying to find out where we can, get the hand sanitizer, where we can get the masks, and where we can get all of the materials that we need to have a safe start. And that's been amazing. So the message is, please wear your mask. If you have any questions or curious about some things that we're doing here, there's my email address. I encourage you to shout out to me. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you, Kathy, very much. Lots of great information. Let's go ahead and quickly shift to the question and answer period. We have some pre-submitted questions, and then we've also got some questions in the queue on the Q&A section. So if you have a question, please go ahead and submit it there. We have a few here. Let's go ahead and we'll start with the ones that are being submitted here in real time. And we'll take a few of those, and then we'll turn to some of the questions that was submitted before we got started. So starting at the top, Superintendent Jabia, we'll start with you. A question from one of our viewers. What is the process for the dual enrollment program since Southeastern University began classes on Monday and the school district begins on September the 8th? You mind taking that one, sir?
Oh, I would like to take it. I'd like to be able to give you an answer, but I do not have the answer for that. I do know that Amy Lemaine, my assistant superintendent, is working with Southeastern and with Nunez and a number of other universities for the dual enrollment, but I'm sorry I don't have that information with me today.
Got it. Well, thank you for addressing the question. We'll go to the additional question, and this is for all of our school districts in the context of, has COVID affected your budget at your individual school? Superintendent, you want to kick us off since I'm looking at you first?
Yes, sir. We were fortunate. I think it was $6.7 million we got from the CARES Act. So we were able to go ahead and order all of our different supplies that we needed. We were able to put in some personnel in the budget because we're going to have to do some things with some classes that are too large. So we might need some additional teachers. So we're able to put that in the budget. So far, it has not impacted our general fund budget. We were able to do the things that we needed to do through the CARES Act and get that going.
Great. Thank you, Superintendent. Dr. Wainwright, how about the college?
Yeah, so I'll try to answer a couple of these. So while we received CARES Act funding, the reality is if you look at state support of higher education, we're 60% supported by self-generated revenue, 40% supported by the state. So enrollment is critical, which ties to the question I believe Susan asked on the chat about enrollment. Enrollment is down. That will have a financial impact. And to tell you specifically how much it's down, that's where it gets tricky, because we dual enroll 800 St. Tammany Parish public school system students in career and technical education. And we're working very closely with the school officials to give those students an opportunity after September 8th. So we have a plan. We won't know the true opportunity probably until mid to late September. So I would suggest toward the end of September, I can tell you at the college exactly what our enrollment projections show. But what we're also seeing, and so yes, decline in enrollment impacts budget of all higher ed institutions. But I will say that we are looking at a second start, which is what we're calling an October second start session, because we're finding that many parents and students in higher education who are coming to work, remember, those same parents sending kids to the public schools and aren't going to do it until September 8th are enrolling in our college once their kids are in school. And so we're going to do a second start in October to give them an opportunity once their kids are established to re-enroll with us. We're going to give them a compressed semester opportunity, which we're hopeful will bring our enrollment where it needs to be.
Got it. Thank you. Kathy, what about on your end?
Yes, it's been up and down. So immediately, March when we shut down, you remember that we are also a preschool. So our preschool families, April and May, weren't really excited about paying fees because they're paying for childcare. And distance learning doesn't really work for 2s and 3s as well as it does for elementary age children. So we did not charge our families fees during April and May, which took a big hit to our budget. Because we're a private school, we are a for-profit status, C Corp private school, we did not have access to CARES funds. So we did apply for the PPP and did get that, thank goodness. And so the parish has been generous actually in sharing face masks and some of the PPE that we needed. But everything else has come out of our budget for, the sneeze guards, everything that we've had to prepare for a safe start has come out of our budget. So we're squeaking a little bit. The good news is that we've enrolled 21 new elementary students in the last month at Cedarwood, or actually over the summer. So that'll help a lot. And we're keeping our ear to the ground for any other programs that are available for us to write grants for, et cetera. But we're good. We're in good shape, and we're happy to be back, and the kids are happy to be back, and we feel like we're on the upswing.
Good deal. Thank you. Melissa, what about on the workforce training side? Have you seen a reduction in funds because of COVID?
No, we have not. Actually, typically, this can increase budgets on our side. Primarily, although our formula funding is actually probably based on 2-year-old data. This year, the state of Louisiana as a whole did get some additional funding. from our formula grants. And then of course, they did ask for some additional resources to assist our public agencies and entities in our communities in addressing COVID-related humanitarian efforts. And so there are grants available across the state for our local boards and centers to be able to provide temporary jobs for individuals to assist during the pandemic. So we're doing well and fine with our funding currently right now.
Got it. Thank you, Melissa. Kathy, I'm coming back to you. We have a question at Cedarwood. Was there any resistance among faculty to return to school?
I'm going to say no, but it was attributed to our admin team has been in contact with our teachers ever since we were out March 13th. We had weekly Zoom calls with them to have conversations about what was going on and how they were and what their families were doing and how they were coping. And so that constant communication and staying in touch with them, I think went a long way. When we started talking about coming back to school, we again shared with them all of the safety precautions that we were taking and all the protocol that we had put in place. We had the advantage of, we opened actually some of our summer programs in phase 1, following the 9-to-1 ratio, just to get some practice under our belts. And so we had seven weeks of summer camp where we were able to actually put the protocol in place, practice, and see the effect, how effective it was. We had no one sick over the summer. And, you know, I pray that we won't have anyone sick during the fall and the spring, but they were confident that we were doing all the right things.
Got it. Thank you. Mr. Superintendent, how have you addressed that with some of your teachers?
Well, we've had I'm not going to say a large number, but we've had a lot of inquiries, teachers, other employees concerned because they may be compromised, or either they're living with someone who is compromised and they have a fear of going back to work. You know, we're trying to do everything we can to assure them that we're going to have a safe environment, but we certainly understand, you know, their concerns. There is some new laws that were passed, some federal legislation dealing with extended sick leave pay and some extended family medical leave. So if they qualify under one of those particular situations, they can receive up to 2 weeks of paid leave and not count against their sick leave. So we do have some of our employees that are taking advantage of that. And we're working with the principals. It's not a large percentage overall because we have a large number of employees, but it's something we're very concerned about, especially with our teaching and learning. You know, if one of our teachers are not going to be there and, you know, and we have to do distance and face-to-face and what we're going to do on those. So we're trying to work through all of those. Right now it's manageable, but we're going to keep an eye on it. A good point for us is going to be, you know, on the 20th when all of our employees return, or the majority of our employees return, we'll see actually how many is there, and that's going to give us a few days to make adjustments if we need to do so.
Got it. Thank you, sir. Chancellor, are you seeing similar dynamics at the higher ed level?
We are. Pete just did a phenomenal job walking us through some of the federal changes in human resources opportunities we've had as institutions. So that's been helpful. The only thing I'll add is one of my challenges, and we all face it every day, is we have a lot of people who want to work, and some of them are wanting to come to work and not feeling well. And so we're having to pay extra attention to that population to make sure that they're honestly completing their electronic check-in, symptom checker on a daily basis. But, you know, the reality is everyone understands the significance of the pandemic and illness. If we're watching the LDH Region 9 numbers, we are all cognizant that we've seen an uptick, consistent uptick in the North Shore. And I'm pleased to see more and more of our faculty and staff lead by example, because embedded within the culture, we've got to lead by example. We expect our students, and our students are adult learners, to follow such direction. We've got model it. And so we've been working tirelessly to ensure that everybody's following protocol. So again, anyone who's had an issue, the medical leave revisions have allowed them to be served.
Got it. Thank you. And while you still have the floor, Kathy Stewart was complimenting your presentation and also asked the COVID protocol slide on trees. Is that just an NTCC or is that system-wide?
Yeah, so we work together as a system of 12 community colleges throughout the state of Louisiana, and we've all shared and worked collectively on that decision tree. The only time you may see a variance in the decision tree depends on the, for example, I'm a multi-campus institution where you have Nunez, which is a single campus community college, where they're in one parish, I'm in 5 parishes. And so it just depends on really the structure of the college, but for the most part, all decision trees are consistent.
Got it. Thank you. Being sensitive to time, we got just enough time for a couple of questions. We'll do 2 more real quickly. We have one, and this is for any of our educators. What lessons impact are you garnering from the schools that have already begun, who may be having some positive cases and sending kids home? Is there a plan B? Who wants to tackle that one first?
I can go ahead and tell you that through the State Department, we have a roundtable panel each Friday. We had our first one last Friday for those superintendents who have already opened school and saying what's working and what's not working. So we're able to listen to what's going on with them. We're having another one this Friday. So I think it's very helpful for us to hear that. Surrounding parishes, some of those have started. What are their issues? What are not their issues? I heard some on another meeting today of issues dealing with personnel. Somebody testing positive and then around other people and then having to quarantine all of those particular employees. And how do I handle this and where do I go from there? So it's a multitude of things that they discussed, anything from transportation to car line and how that's working, how they're maneuvering through the school. Most of it is administrative type stuff. The one thing that I've really learned that's been really, really good is that the kids are compliant. As Kathy said, they're compliant. They're proud of their masks that they're wearing. They have all different types, and they're doing what they're asked to do. So I think that's going to be key, and I think our employees are ready to get back to work. So I think by listening to other ones, we're gonna learn a little bit more every week. Fortunately for us, we got a little while before we open, so I'm gonna get a chance to hear a lot of these things that's going on before we open the doors.
And Chris, I'll give one example. We meet weekly. The chancellors of all the community colleges. We learned from another community college that their plan, the expectation is the perfect bubble of safety, right? That's what we all strive for, whether we're in pandemic or not. And so one of the things we're working on is taking our emergency preparedness planning, our active shooter planning, all of our disaster planning, and now we're overlaying the pandemic planning to ensure that there's no gaps there, because we've worked so hard to be controlled in one avenue, say for active shooter, that can create some challenges and opportunities with what's being required of us. The other example was all of our planning efforts was focused on what happens in the building. And then one of our colleges had an issue in a parking lot with congregating people. So now we had to go back and adjust our plans to ensure that we're also addressing congregating in a parking lot. So that's just 2 examples of how this learning from one another is vital.
Got it. Kathy, anything you want to add before we transition?
No, I think some of my teachers and I were having a discussion yesterday about all of the protocol and teaching children how to wash hands and when to use the hand sanitizers. And we, children love to train their parents. And so we think that that's going to be a benefit, that we're not, maybe we hadn't thought of, but, they're going to go home and say, you have to wash your hands, Mom. And you just, you touched food. Now you have to wash your hands, Mom. I'm looking for, I think that that's going to be a great thing, children taking the message home to their parents, because our biggest worry is really not what's happening here at school. It's what they're exposed to when they go home and out into the public. And, we worry about who they've been with, and we can't control that. So, but we can teach them how to be safe here, and hopefully they'll take that message home to all their families. So.
Great. Well, thank you. Well, as we round out the session and the question, Melissa, I'm going to throw you the last question because you've been
Okay.
so patient. But you're going to, we want to make sure you have an opportunity to kind of relay some information. So what's the best way for job seekers or businesses to kind of connect to that workforce resource that may be available in the context of what we've been talking about today? What's the best way to connect?
Well, certainly we want them to let us help them, first of all. So for our job seekers, we're ready and able to help them build that resume, perfect those interview tips, figure out what that competitive edge is that they maybe don't realize that they have, or just maybe encourage them and help them to get some additional certifications. And for the employers, there are many individuals that are looking for, there are many good individuals looking for employment right now. In fact, I don't think I mentioned it before, but we have a feeling that our gig workers may be looking at transitioning into more regular types of employment. And we know that we have some fantastic top quality individuals out there that maybe just during this time have not been able to be successful on their own and are looking to get back into the world of work. So we want them to reach out to us, and they can reach us on through Facebook. We have a lot of job postings that we're putting on Facebook and through our hire system, through the Louisiana Workforce Commission. But we're ready and able to help make those connections for our employers and our job seekers.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.
And as we kind of close out, to one final thought, and this is really for us, the business and industry community, supporting you all and what you're trying to do, is how can we best support you? Do you have something that you need? Is there a piece of advice or information? How can we best support what you're trying to accomplish from business and industry as we close out our conversation? Anybody want to throw something back at us? You've been so good about us giving you questions. How about for us?
Well, just for us, I think being supportive of the schools and the school system, to be able to communicate with us, rather if you hear something on the street, give us a call. We have people here that can answer any of the questions. If we have any of our interns that are out there seeking jobs, if you could do whatever you can to accommodate them so that you can put them to work, I think that would be a big, big plus for us.
Excellent. Thank you. I'm writing that down. Others?
Just to complement what Pete just shared. So for all of our technical studies students, when we get to a point in curriculum where we're simply up against a wall with online and there's a critical need for hands-on, the existing internship opportunities that we have, we want our employer partners to know that we welcome that expansion of opportunity definitely during the fall, if not the spring. That allows us the continuum of curriculum in serving technical studies students with the hands-on in the event we can't. It reduces the amount of people we have on campus. And by nature of occupation, all of our business partners, occupational health and safety is their primary focus. So we have no concerns with our students and graduates being in industry, because we know our industry partners are practicing the same health and safety standards that we are. So internships, I appreciate Pete sharing that, because that's an important component.
Excellent. How about volunteers back on the campus real quickly? I was reminded that there was a question about volunteers. Superintendent Kathy, you all letting volunteers onto your campus?
No,
No, we're
sir.
not.
Sorry, we're not. No, sir.
How about you,
It's
Kathy?
essential personnel only. And so I know it's in our front office where we really need the help and, helping in the classroom. We're just trying to limit the people that enter our building, for the safety of our kids and our employees. So at this point in time, we're not going to allow the volunteers in.
Got it. So Dr. Wainwright, is that the same for the college?
Yeah, we pretty much for us, it's not allowing the general public in, students by appointment only. We have started corporate training with our corporate training partners. They've been coming in, adhering to our standards. We don't have use. We just don't have a lot of volunteer opportunities at the college. We handle that through work study through our students. And so for us, it's just not applicable.
Well,
We
thank
are
you.
allowing speech therapists and learning therapists, people, essentials who are delivering, services to our children who need those support services. But that, other than that, there are no volunteers. And Chris, I would just add from Cedarwood's perspective, how can you help? Just be supportive of the schools that are open. The teachers are doing some really great work, and it's hard work. They're doing their job and another job at the same time. It's harder now in this environment. Several of the daycare centers, preschools in our community have closed because of COVID. We've been able to safely open our preschool, and we still have some slots open. I'm going to be self-serving and saying, spread that word, because we are providing childcare for those working parents. And that's a difficult thing to work at home when you have a 2-year-old and you don't have childcare. So we're providing that. And as I said, today was our first day open. So we're excited about being able to serve the community in that capacity.
Well, very true. Well, thank you all very much. I've now been given the official, it's time to close out. You guys have been awesome with your time. We want to thank our panelists, Will and Melissa, Kathy, Pete. Thank you guys for your leadership. You guys are truly leading with courage and compassion and integrity in a very difficult and uncertain time. We appreciate you and your teams, and you have our support, and we're encouraged with what you're doing in the leadership, and particularly as you guys begin this fall. And economic development and workforce and talent are consistently a critical factor in how we grow jobs, we attract jobs, and we continue to make St. Tammany Parish the destination of choice as we stay competitive. Our people are the most important asset in our community. People give us our culture, our spirit, our voice, and our pride. And we're going to continue to educate and train, support, and cultivate that dynamic talent in St. Tammany Parish. And as we close out, 2 reminders for you. One, a lot of the information and stuff that we collect on the COVID impact, we do in 2 publications called The Snapshot, as a part of our Analyst, which is our research publication at the St. Tammany Corporation. And be on the lookout the next couple of weeks for the 2-quarter trends report that we'll be putting out through St. Tammany Corporation. In addition, please don't forget to mask up. It's a simple ask, supporting our businesses, and stay masked up. I want to say thank you to Jessica Hester and the Chamber, and Susan at the Foundation, and my team, Ashley Llewellyn and Elizabeth Lee, for all the work in helping put this together today. Thank you all very much. We appreciate you. We're proud to be a part of this community, and God bless you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris. Appreciate it.
Bye now.